Texas A&M was not ranked in the post-spring top 25 from On3. They weren't in the first 5 out. Why are the Aggies not getting any respect from the national media?
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox, no console needed. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. On the show today, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about a recent addition to the Texas A&M basketball team from rival Texas. We're going to talk about KC Concepcion. There was a ranking list that he was a part of that I think is really telling for the kind of season he's going to have for the Aggies. But we're going to get things kicked off here, starting talking about this list from On3. So it's from Andy Staples of On3, who did a college football post-spring top 25. Andy Staples is a writer. I really like Andy Staples, but I don't agree with what he has to say on this list. So he listed, like I said, the top 25 in a graphic. Then in his article, he goes on to list 5 teams that, first 5 out, honorable mention, whatever you want to call them. The Aggies weren't listed. So in essence, this means that Texas A&M, according to Andy Staples, is not a top 30 team in college football. And I mean, the only word I can think to describe that is just asinine. I don't know how you can look at this team. Looking at the football team that, yes, they had a late season collapse last year. That did happen. You can't, there's no excuses there. That's reality. But this Texas A&M football team, and yeah, they lost a first rounder and 2 second rounders in the NFL draft. On the defensive line, you lost some great players there, no question. But this football team is in a position right now where there is no way you can't consider it a top 30 team. Now, honestly, if you would have said, hey, Andy Staples made a post-spring top 25 list, what do you think Texas A&M is? I'd have probably said 18 to 22 in that range. I'm not sitting here trying to defend the fact that Texas A&M should be a top 15 team in this list, because they shouldn't. But there's no question that they should be on this list and on this graphic. It makes zero sense to me. Like, I don't know what you're looking at. I don't know what as Andy Staples. And I mean, some of these teams like on this list, Iowa, Iowa State, Nebraska, Tennessee, now after losing their quarterback. I mean, some of these football teams on this list, I'm sitting here and saying to myself, how in the world do you have this team listed ahead of Texas A&M? And then you go down to those honorable mentions I talked about. The honorable mentions, Baylor, Missouri, Indiana, TCU, and Washington. I mean, these teams just are not better than the Aggies. I don't understand it. I really don't. And when I look at this, I say to myself, Texas A&M, I think, has a top 10 running back room in college football. I think they're going to have a top 15 defense in college football. I think their offense is going to be inside the top 25. So if they have a top 25 offense and a top 15 defense, how are they not a top 30 overall football team? It doesn't make any sense to me. And I get it. Sometimes writers try to, I am a writer myself. I write a lot of articles. And sometimes you have to, when you have a take, you want to be a little bit bold. You want to be a little bit eye-catching. And I get that. That is understandable. But I can't sit here and pretend like it makes any sense why Texas A&M is not a football team that is listed inside of the top 30 in the nation. It doesn't make any sense. And also, it's not like anything they didn't, Marcel Reed didn't get injured, or, it wasn't like you lost a big time player in the portal, or a player that you anticipated having a huge season, had a season ending injury in the spring. nothing has happened to Texas A&M to sit here and say, hey, they shouldn't be inside a top 25 list now. It really doesn't make any sense to me right there. So, I mean, once again, if you base off of this list, if you're basing that off of this list, the Aggies would be what in the SEC? Let's see. Texas would be 1. Alabama would be 2. Georgia would be 3. Florida would be 4. South Carolina would be 5. Auburn would be 6. LSU would be 7. Ole Miss would be 8. Tennessee would be 9. That means you think the Aggies are the 10th best team in the conference. And I mean, this is a team that was a win away from an SEC championship appearance last year. I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. And I think, I don't get having Auburn or South Carolina ahead of the Aggies. Now, yes, South Carolina did beat Texas A&M last year, and so did Auburn. But it was part of the collapse. But I mean, I still think heading into this season, these are two football teams that they're a lot of based off of hype, and I think that Texas A&M has more proven talent. You know what I mean? They've more proven. They've proven more what they are. And I know, once again, I know it sounds hypocritical when you're talking about they lost to those two teams, but I just, when you look at who this team Texas A&M has, I think it's a more proven team that is going to be, South Carolina and Auburn are, they're the big hype teams. They could be really good, but once again, it could be really good. We'll have to see. So this is frustrating me. Now, I've talked about this. This has been a theme I've talked about a lot during my time here at Locked On Aggies. And I'll tell you this. I think that Texas A&M, I'm serious about this. They have become an annoyance to college football fans and I think national college football writers, because they often, Texas A&M's a top 10 team. They're a top 5 team. They're a top 15 team. And the Aggies have time after time underperformed expectations. That is a reality. That has been the case. I hate to sit here and say that. I know it sounds depressing. I don't want to sit here and talk about that because it just sounds horrible and depressing and all that. But at the end of the day, I think it annoys people. I think that national writers are getting tired of writing articles and hyping up Texas A&M just for the Aggies to not live up to the hype. I think that is something that is happening. And knowing that is happening, I think that it is a bit frustrating to these writers, and they're kind of sitting there to themselves and saying, okay, well, I'm done with it. I'm done ranking this Texas A&M team high up. I'm done doing it. I'm done ranking them high because they just time and time again don't seem to live up to those expectations. And I think that really frustrates folks. So I kind of get it. I do. I kind of get it. But I think that ranking a team outside of a top 25 list, obviously I keep saying top 30 because of those next 5 out list. But I mean, to not put a team there because of that also seems a little bit asinine to me. So I'm frustrated by this because I just know that Texas A&M's team is better than this. I know that it's better than this ranking. But I think that at the end of the day, once again, lists, none of this matters. Fans, we can sit here and be annoyed by it and say, you know what, that's silly. It doesn't make any kind of sense why Texas A&M is not in that list. We can sit here and say that. But at the end of the day, if the Aggies don't go out there and prove it and put together a good season and make a college football playoff appearance, if they aren't doing this, our room to sit here and gripe about lists like this, I think, shrinks year after year after year. And that's why I'm upset about this list, but I get it. That's my take on here. So I'm frustrated by it. Let me know y'all's thoughts on that in the YouTube comments. And I mean, how do you feel? Where should Texas A&M have been ranked on this list? Do you think they shouldn't have been? Should they have been? Let me know that, plus y'all's thoughts in the YouTube comments. KC Concepcion was listed on a list that talked about some players that are due for a bounce-back season. And we'll talk about why I think that's a perfect example of how to describe KC Concepcion coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at Game Time. Those of you every day here at Locked On Aggies know that I absolutely love the Game Time app. Going to an MLB game tonight, and I bought my game and my tickets on Game Time. I love the Game Time app. Every time I buy tickets to absolutely anything, I purchase those tickets on Game Time. My mom and I are going up to a concert in Atlanta and then going to a Braves game, I guess next weekend. Not this weekend, but next weekend. Where did we get those tickets to the game and the concert? Game Time. Went to go see a comedian with my dad in Cincinnati a few weeks ago. Where to get those tickets? Game Time. It is the best place to purchase all of your tickets. I love the Game Time app. It makes it easy to pick where you want to sit, to see the different vantage points to the arena, to the floor, to the field, to the ice, to the stage, to wherever event you're at. It lets you see the best way to see that. So I love the Game Time app, and I recommend it to all my friends, and I'm here recommending it to y'all as well. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. So a list came out from Bleacher Report, a list that I found very, very interesting. And it listed the top 7 players in college football that were poised for bounce back seasons. So the first person on this list, Carson Beck, Miller Moss, Louisville, used to be at USC. Malik Sherrod, running back, is now at Boise State. And then number 4 was KC Concepcion, the Aggies' most recent addition to the wide receiver room, came over from NC State. The blurb has this to say: KC Concepcion already has an interesting journey. During the 23 season, he was a breakout star at NC State. The freshman showed off versatility with 71 catches, 839 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 320 yards rushing to go on 7.8 yards per carry. And he threw a 17-yard touchdown. All of that production made him a second-team All-ACC selection. But as NC State dipped from a 9-4 team to a 6-7 team last season, Concepcion's numbers did as well. He reeled in 53 passes for 460 yards and 6 touchdowns, managing only 36 yards and 2 touchdowns on 19 carries on the ground. Concepcion has since transferred to Texas A&M, where he's the veteran of the receiving unit and should be Marcel Reed's top target in 2025. So, this has been something we've talked about a lot here on Locked On Aggies, and that is the fact that KC Concepcion did not quite have the season last year at NC State that I think people would have anticipated. And yes, I do think quarterback play has a big role in that. And I think that quarterback play is going to be better this year, of course. But when you look to me, this is the way I look at it. If you look at the rest of the tape on Concepcion from last year, it was very clear that he is a player that is way better than the numbers he put up. And honestly, we all know that from the year we had the year before, where he put up almost 1,000 yards, a handful of touchdowns, and a lot of yards on the ground. So I think that Concepcion is a player that is due for a bounce back season. Now, I also think, and this is something we've talked about a lot here at Locked On Aggies, I think that Concepcion needs to get a little bit of help. I think that he, once again, he can't throw himself the ball. He can get open, but if the football isn't getting to him, it's not his fault. He has got to get the football in his hands, because I think that he is an absolute star once he has the ball in his hands. He's a great shimmy player. He can make you miss. He's a guy that I anticipate having. And it's hard to predict him to have an 1,000-yard season for the Aggies simply because I think that he, this is tough one. This is a tough one for me. I think it's going to be tough for him to have an 1,000-yard season simply because I just don't see the Aggies having a 1,000-yard receiver, partially because of how good the running back room is going to be. And I think on top of that, the running back room is going to be good. They're going to want to run the ball a lot. I mean, when you have a quarterback who can run it as good as Marcel Reed can, and you have a great running back room and an offensive line that's going to be able to create holes, I do think that it makes a lot of sense for to run the football. I mean, they're going to be a run-heavy team, but I do think that you're going to see the passing be at least similar to what we saw last year, if not more. And that's what's going to be interesting. And I think that that's what's going to make or break a massive season for Concepcion. I think the floor is 600 yards, maybe 650. Like, that's the floor. He's not going to be below that. But how much? I think the ceiling's 1,000. Where is he going to be in that range? In that 650 to 1,000, where he'll be in that range? If you were asking me right now, I would guess he's going to have between 800 and 900 yards. That would be my guess. I think that's quite realistic. But still, there's a ton of upside there for Concepcion because we know how good of a player he can be. I think he's an absolute stud. I think that he can give you double-digit touchdowns this year. I'd love to see them, get him going on those end rounds and him have another 150, 200-yard rushing season. I think it's realistic to say that he can have over 1,000 all-purpose yards like he did 2 years ago at NC State. Last year he wasn't quite there. But I think that 1,000 all-purpose yards is very realistic because I think he'll get 20 to 30 carries, unless they give those to Terry Bussey, which is a realistic outcome as well. But I like this list because I think it's fair to say that KC Concepcion had an underwhelming sophomore season last year for NC State. But at the same time, I don't know how much you can put that on him. That's just reality. His offense just wasn't as good because of quarterback play. There were some injuries there. There was a lot going on with that offense, and I don't think you can blame it all on Concepcion. So, yes, he had a down year. What I'm kind of getting at here is how much of that can you really blame on Concepcion? I don't think you can blame it all on him. So, that is my take on KC Concepcion, and I think that he is a player that is going to have a boom season for the Aggies, and I'm really excited to see it. The Aggies added another basketball player via the transfer portal, a great addition here, who I think is a low-risk, high-upside type of addition, and he comes from Texas. We'll talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props, from three-pointers to steals to assists. FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live bets into same-game parlay for a chance to win big. A lot of fun things to bet on right now over at FanDuel. You got baseball going on. You got the NBA playoffs. You got the NHL playoffs. It's a fun time over on FanDuel, just like it always is. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Bucky McMillan continues to cook in the transfer portal. He has now officially added 7 players via the transfer portal: Jakari Lane, Zach Clements, Mackenzie Mbako, Josh Holloway, Duke Miles, Marcus Hill, and most recently, Jamie Vincent, who comes over from Texas. So last season for Texas, Vincent only appeared in 9 games. He averaged 2 points per game, 1 rebound per game. Not a lot of action not a ton of action for Vincent in his true freshman season at Texas last year. Now, he is the type of player, and I talked about this when we talked about the addition of Marcus Hill from NC State, which we talked about that yesterday. Vincent is the type of player that the Aggies need. These Marcus Hill, Duke Miles, Mbako, and Ja'Cory Lane, these type of guys, these are going to be your main scorers, your guys that are your big-time transfers, come in and do a lot well for you and all that, right? That's the reality there. I think that players like Clements and Vincent are guys that are going to come in and they're going to come off the bench. Are they going to play 25 minutes a game? No. If I was guessing right now, I'd say Vincent plays 15-ish minutes a game. But he's a 6'11", 225-pound power forward center type of player who can help this basketball team. He's a player that makes you better. And I mean, I've talked about it. You need players. I mean, and you're going to need a bunch more guys. We're not even close to filling a roster. I think Coach McMillan's going to go get a few more guys that play a more significant role than Vincent does. But Vincent was a true freshman last year, and he has a ton of upside. All of the upside in the world. I mean, at 6'11", 225, he's got some star power in him. Let him develop. I mean, let him play 10, 15 minutes this year. Develop. He's probably going to be a 3-year player for the Aggies. I don't see him going anywhere. He's not like an NBA draft guy after this year. He's a player that can come in and do a lot well for your program for a few years and help you out. So, yes, I think this is an awesome addition. It'd be great also if he was Austin, knowing that we got him he's an Austin native and he went to Texas and all that. I really want to see what Vincent is able to do, because I think that he is a player that is just another great off the bench depth piece, type of guy that'll give you 3 great games next year, but be a consistently solid player. So this is a great addition for Bucky McMillan. And I just, once again, continue to harp on the fact that I think he's done a heck of a job as the head coach of the Aggies so far. I saw there was a bracketology that came out from Joe Lenardi, which that poor dude needs a rest. I mean, March just ends and he's right back to making a way too early bracketology. Had the Aggies, I believe it was first 4 out. Let me see. And I talked about this. I think he had the Aggies first 4 out. So he believes the Aggies are going to be a team that is right on the bubble all year long. And I agree with that. I don't dispute that. I think that's reality. So we'll see, but I think Coach McMillan's continuing to do a heck of a job in the transfer portal. He is putting together a roster that is more than capable of making the tournament if they exceed expectations a little bit, which I think they can do. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you all so much for being here every single day. I really, really appreciate it. We've got a baseball series to talk about later in the week, a lot more fun conversations to have throughout the week here on Locked On Aggies as we slowly approach the month of May. Hope everyone has a great rest of their Tuesday, and we'll see you tomorrow right here on Locked On Aggies.